Hey, hey.
Girl. I was totally gonna ask you. You're gonna have to send me the recipe because you said hot chocolate, and I was gonna ask you what recipe you use. Do you make your own?
Yeah. Yeah, this is so easy because I don't do sugar or like normal sugar.
Yeah.
I just get cacao wafers, which are like high fat content. You can make a lot of keto stuff with it. I actually put those in my coffee sometimes to make like
Yeah.
a mocha, but I
Yeah.
just do that and almond milk and then like coconut sugar or liquid stevia, whatever I'm in the mood for. And blend it up. Today I put a little bit of butter and MCT oil in it too.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
sounds so good.
Yeah, and you've got your hot tea.
I do. I'm doing my dandelion and liver, whatever, liver, no, lemon. Dandelion lemon for my liver.
Yes. So do you like the combo?
Yeah, you have to stir it. It's a little rough though, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's a little rough. Go find daddy. Go find daddy. He was supposed to
Oh my God, you're a sweet little baby. Um, yeah, okay. So
get into it.
the ultimatum.
Yeah. Oh, and we introduce ourselves. Should we say our names again?
I mean, sure. Why not?
So I'm Emily.
I'm Amanda. This is getting juicy.
Get see episode 3, right? Is this 3?
Great. No, I think this is 4.
Okay, episode 4.
Yeah, we're on episode 4 now. Wow. But we're covering at the ultimatum episodes 2 and 3, right?
Okay. Yes, yes. And that was okay, so they had a few dates, there was a mixer, and then they made their choices, and then they spent their first night together as a couple.
Yeah. So, first of all, I just have to say this up front because the whole time I was watching it, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, to me, it is wild. I've seen this show like however many times, so it's not like a surprise for shouldn't be, but it's wild to me how the people who were like so ready to get married and issue the ultimatum come in and how quickly they can have feelings for someone else.
Yes. So Nick and Vanessa specifically, Scotty and Zaina specifically, right?
Yeah.
But then it's also interesting to me that like Dave is like, I don't want to do this at all. Like I'm done. I don't want to do this. I find him to be fascinating. I really like him. I think he's a good guy.
Um,
Interpretation.
yeah, he kind of, to me, he is a good guy, but I think it's an interesting dynamic because he was like not for getting married at all.
Yeah.
And then almost immediately seeing someone else. Like, I don't know if it's just because he's seeing someone else interested in her or because she's interested in someone else or like what? But he just flipped really quickly.
He really did. I thought that was really, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes you like losing to really like process it. Like, I think he really likes her, but I think for him, he has to, I don't know. How do you even say it? Like hit rock bottom? Like, I don't know. I feel like people, and maybe this is not the right way to say this, but I feel like people make marriage out to be like this. I mean, it is a big deal, but I think that they like psych themselves out to the point where like they can't even process getting married.
Yeah. Like, well, yes. So I think some people can feel a lot of pressure around it. And I think what I'm also wondering is, I mean, you could be like really seriously, madly in love with someone. And I think we talked about this maybe on the last episode a little bit, but like, it doesn't mean that the timing lines up that
Right.
you are both ready to get married at the same time. Like, you don't have to be ready to get married just because you're, or even want to get married. Like, that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
just because you really want to be with someone or are madly in love with them. But I just do find it really interesting. Like, I think I would feel like if someone told me, I want to marry you and I'm all in for you. And then they're like, so I'm issuing this ultimatum because of that. And then we go to this show, and within a matter of like a couple weeks or whatever, they're all about somebody else. I would be like, well, fuck you then. I don't want to marry you. Because like I really want someone who is all in on me, who is like committed, who knows what they want, and who is willing to like do what it takes to back that up, right? Where their words and their actions align.
Yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, I don't blame these people for, I know that they're in this situation and they're doing the ultimatum thing. And so I'm not like blaming them for saying, well, if the person doesn't want to marry me, then I'm going to just let it go and go date someone else. But it's like they literally, it's almost like they just flip so fast.
Yes, I have the same thought because I think it's like for me, I would not be comfortable sleeping in a bed with somebody I just met like that. Like, I don't think I could relax. I think I'd be a wreck. I mean, unless you're like super into then, which clearly like JR and Sandy are into each other. Who else is super into each other? I wrote it down. JR are super together. Nick and Vanessa seem into it. And then the rest of them are like kind of just like friendly vibes. Like, oh, I do ask Scotty and Zaina that they're into it. So, I mean, I guess if you're like really interested and attracted to that person, I could probably sleep in bed with them, but I still don't think I could relax enough to sleep. I think I'd be like on edge.
Yeah, I think I could if I was like, had this immediate like connection and I felt really comfortable, but I don't think I
Yeah.
could with just anyone. Anyway, let's get into like, let's just get into the choices because maybe the people like, I don't know. We should probably backtrack to that because
Okay, let's do the choice. Well, okay.
I'm amazed. So I dove in.
Before the choices though, I personally think that the mixers
Oh,
would be like totally awkward, uncomfortable. I would hate them if it was me. Like I would absolutely hate it. I would not have fun with them. I don't think it would be very nice. I wouldn't like it.
what about it?
I don't think that I could be comfortable in front of my ex being like flirty and fun with somebody else, and I don't think I would want to see them with somebody else.
And is that, would you feel that same way whether you were on the receiving end of the ultimatum or you gave it? Like it wouldn't matter.
I guess it would really depend on the person, but my current relationship that I'm in, it would not be comfortable for me, like at all. I would be like a hot mess. I would be Aria on like, I don't know, like Aria times 10.
Right.
I would be a train wreck.
Yeah, like I think I could handle it more. And I actually thought about this with when they go to that like big long table and they're all talking and making their decisions. I was thinking about this. It's basically the same thing. Like I could handle it more if I was on, I think I could handle it more. If I was on like the receiving end, if I was just like of the ultimatum, like, well, I didn't want to commit, so that was my choice. So of course I'm gonna see this person with like mingling and talking to someone else and maybe people being flirty with him or whatever. But if I gave it and I was like so invested and like so in love that I wanted to get married, I would find it more difficult to see someone like to see the love of my life being flirty with someone else, or that would be harder for me personally.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that, like when they're at that table and they're talking about like the person they're going to choose, and they're saying all these wonderful things about that person. And
And
like,
then kind of like throwing digs at their
yes,
current relationship. But I was like, oh, this is like not comfortable at all for me.
that's what I was just going to say. It's like sometimes they like say, like, oh, so and so couldn't give me what I wanted. And actually, when Sandy was talking at that, when they were making the decisions, she kept like, she would not even say Nick's name.
Yeah.
She was like, my ex, or whatever she said. Like, she would not even say his name.
She's clearly not interested. She's not into Nick at all. That's my opinion on it. She could
I,
feel differently, but I don't feel like she, yeah, is into Nick as much as he would hope she would be.
yeah. And there's something, and I can't put my finger on it exactly. There's something about her and JR that makes me uncomfortable.
It's very, um, it's an attraction based relationship, in my opinion. I feel like they're so attracted to each other that that's like the foundation that they're building on.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, I haven't been able to articulate it yet, right? And
Yeah,
I agree
it'll
with you about the attraction thing. I don't necessarily think that's a negative.
no, I
There's
don't.
something about the way they interact with each other that feels, I'm going to use a word that's like, I'm going to say it feels dirty to me. And I don't mean like dirty, like a good dirty. I just mean like there's something not quite jiving or something, but
Like, do you think it's more him or more her that's like making you feel that way?
mm, no, I think it's both of them in
Okay.
at different times. But yeah, it's, do you feel that way or no?
I think I know what you're trying to say because I feel like if you're with somebody for as long as they've been with somebody, like 2.5, 3 years, they are not giving me the vibes that they've been with somebody for 2.5, 3 years.
Right. It's
It's just
like,
like, oh, they're exes now. Everything's off. All bets are off. We're gonna like live like nobody cares for the next 3 weeks.
right, right. Um, yeah, I was looking because I made a little note. Um, yeah, I just said something makes me feel uncomfortable and I can't put my finger on it. But I also was saying, like, I also think if they can go into that experience and have that kind of chemistry and like dive in and act on that, which I don't think is wrong or a problem. But
That's the name. Oh yeah,
if you're, then you probably might want to just consider, am I actually, like, maybe I'm actually really wasn't ready to marry that person. Maybe this is a good indicator
yeah.
that I wasn't ready to marry my ex.
Would you say that they're like, I don't know, they're just like super confident? Maybe I mean, like she's like, oh, I'm hot, and he's like, oh, I'm hot. Like it's like this, we're so hot dance, like back and forth, kind of.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you know what? I know what it is, I think.
Okay.
It feels superficial. Like when I said dirty, what I'm meaning by that is like, it's just an like not a clean, clear exchange of energy. Like I think it's inauthentic.
Yes, and I think that's what I was trying to get at with, like, they're very based on attraction. So I think, yes, like superficial attraction. I think that they've had like deep conversations, and maybe they have off camera that we haven't
Right.
seen, but I don't feel like they've
Yeah, I didn't see any.
like really talked. I just feel like they just talk about how hot they think they are, or like the other one.
Right. And the thing is, like, have you had a relationship like that before where you do have that kind of chemistry?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I haven't been in a I've been with the same person for what, 13
I
years?
know. So we're in such different. So I'll say I've definitely had that with multiple different people, but there was still depth and like it was really authentic when I actually went into a relationship and it wasn't just like a fling. And I
Yeah.
think, like, knowing they're on this to figure out about like relationship, I just feel like there's something inauthentic or superficial or I don't know, just something like that is my vibe. I'm not or like the vibe I get. I'm not saying it's how they actually feel. I would love to. Sometimes I'm like, I would love to just ask them.
Yeah. What did you Yeah, that would be so interesting to be like, okay, but I'm sure they filmed this what, probably a year ago. So at that time, I mean, it's been a long time since then, so it's not as fresh. Like they
Yeah.
probably they've already had like more experiences since then. I'm sure they can remember, but I would be really curious. So like back to the whole them making their choices thing. Like, do you feel like you could really mentally prepare yourself for that moment? I mean, I guess you kind of said that when you were like, if I was receiving the ultimatum, sure, whatever. But like, do you think, like, how long do you think it would take them to mentally prepare for sitting down at this table and being like,
Yeah.
which, and then I was also surprised that they, like, there was really no overlap. Everybody was kind of just like already knew who they were going to be with.
Except JR was deciding between Sandy and
Aria.
Maria. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually wondered, like, if Arya had gone first, would she have said JR or would she still have said Caleb? Because didn't she pick Caleb?
Yeah. But I think maybe she would have JR.
Yeah. So I was like,
Thankful
hmm,
it because I think her experience with this is way different than JR's experience, because she seems to be like very upset and just
mhm.
sad and bothered by all of it. And JR's like, hey girl, what's up?
Right, right. So to answer your question, I think I could definitely like get myself in a place where I could handle it because I would know. I mean, it doesn't mean it wouldn't hurt. It doesn't mean I would maybe not wouldn't break down and cry. It doesn't mean whatever, but I would because there are things like you can't prepare for. You don't always know what someone's going to say to you or about you or whatever. But I think I could at least own if I was giving the ultimatum because that would be the harder end of it for me. I think I could at least own, look, I made the decision to bring us here. So therefore, I trust that I can handle this
Yeah.
because I just believe I can handle whatever I take on or whatever comes to me.
I really like that a lot. I trust that I can handle it.
Yeah. And so even if it's painful and it's hard and I want to like fall apart and it's okay, like I might actually like go to my like room after and fall apart and that's okay. That's just part of the experience.
Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't judge myself for that. I would just think that's part of it and that's okay. It's a normal like human response.
I feel like Aria could use a lot of that, like to let go of some of her judgment and to just be like, I trust myself. I trust that I'm gonna, handle this situation, and
Yeah.
it's all gonna.
Yeah, because she's very, we have talked before about like BDSM and the sub being like focused on themselves and the dom focused outward, their attention's outward on the other, and um relating that to masculine feminine dynamics. She has a lot of her focus on her ex
Yes.
rather than like, how am I feeling? What am I getting out of this experience? What do I want? You know, and then little, like, cute little Caleb goes and just the stand up guy and gets the one ply toilet paper for her tears. Oh my
Yeah,
God, that cracked me up. I was like, of course he did that. Of course he was like, hold on, let me get you the toilet paper. I just love him.
I do too. And I'm really glad that she got paired up with him. That was like part of my notes. I was like, yay, because I really wanted those two to be paired up together. Because I think he's going to be able to support her a lot through this.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's already shown us that he's going to support her. So I think that's really cute. But
Yeah.
I thought like, interesting because I feel like he's really quiet. And then his ex, Mariah, I feel like she's really quiet. And I think I would have been more like Mariah and Micah in that situation. Been like, do you snore? Cool. Like I think that's how I would have been. Unless I was like super attracted to the person,
That was so awkward.
but that's how I was like, yes, that's like the reality of this situation.
And
Like,
also, do you think it was partly seemed more awkward because of that music they were playing?
yes, they for sure played that up. Yeah, the music definitely enhanced. I mean, they obviously do that for a reason, but I was just cracking up the whole time, like, yep, seems right to me.
And then she was like, should I do your laundry or whatever?
I know, God love her. That is such a like feminine man versus woman role right there. Gosh.
I know, it was just so
It was
funny.
nice to be like, no, that's okay. Like, like
She
that's
was like,
cool.
you've got your own personal items, I'm sure. Um, but what did you think? In any of your notes, like, let's get to them, but this is just because you brought him up. What did you think about him leaving in the middle of the night?
Oh my gosh.
And didn't Chanel leave too? Like,
Yes, but
and
they never cleared it up. They never said whether they met up or not. And I was like, ah,
I know, but
I
it,
wonder if they'll save that for like the reunion or like towards the end, if they'll finally like reveal what had happened.
yeah, I don't know. But then it was cute. Like, what I loved to see, I will say, was Dave was like, okay, like, do you feel safe going out alone? Would you like me to go with you? Will you like let me know if anything happens and you need help? Like,
Yeah.
I liked that, seeing that protective, you know, I, I think that's a great masculine trait.
I would agree. I think he's a real stand-up guy. I
Yeah.
think Nick is nice too, don't get me wrong. And I know that him and Vanessa are like pretty into it, but Dave seems to be like the stand-up kind of husband, good dad. I just think that was really nice of him. I mean, I know he doesn't know her well, but like to give her that space, but like offer the support. Like I think that's really nice.
Yes, that's exactly, you summarized that beautifully. Like, he gave her the space. At the same time, he offered her support. She knew, it's kind of like she knew, like, I've got you. He's saying, I've got you
Yeah.
if you want it. Because you're right, like, they're not together. They don't know each other that well. Of course, like, she might want to just go be alone or go be with Micah. We don't know.
Right. I don't know. That just was, yeah, I would agree with you. It's such a masculine quality. Be
Yeah.
like, well, I will be here. Like, whatever you need, just let me know. Like,
Yeah. So is there anything, I want to look through my notes. Like, was there anything super juicy that happened in these last two episodes? I mean, I know we decided to combine them because, like,
well, they let us they left us off the hook. So like they left us off the hook. They left us on a cliffhanger because they literally split up the couples between the second and third episode, like the couples choosing. And I'm like, well, like, I'm not going to go on and watch the third one. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm watching the third one.
Yeah.
Made sense. Like, I feel like it is juicy. Like, the whole situation, I feel like there's just so much juiciness to it. Like, all of the dynamics between all the different couples. Like, I just always have so many questions. Like, you know, is this really how they're feeling? Or are they just saying this because like of the situation? Because I think some of the couples go into it that are like, you know, attracted to the other person or whatever. And it's like, I just met you, but oh my gosh, like I have this connection or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you can have like an instant like connection. You can know whether somebody else has your kind of energy and you're gonna them like the second you meet them, right?
Yeah.
But to the point where you're like, you're just such a wonderful person and you're just so giving and you're just like, I feel like they throw a lot of expectations onto the other person and they don't really know them. Like you've literally hung out with them for maybe what, a total of 4 or 5 hours. You slept in a bed with them overnight, but
Yeah.
like you
Right.
haven't done like like work and making dinner and like all the household chores and all of the
And
things
just
in
having
life
to
that
go
like
through everyday
pile up.
life.
Yeah, they haven't done it yet, so they're like throwing all these things out there like you're just so blah blah blah, and it's like, how do you know? You don't know me.
Right.
Like you're saying this in the moment, but you don't really like know me. And that's kind of something Dave said, I think at the mixer, or he said it when they were like coupling up. He was like, just remember, you should show your true colors during this time. And I was like, that's right, buddy. You should, because 3 weeks is not, in my long enough to really get to the root of things. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Love is Blind, I feel like it goes downhill fast sometimes, but
Uh-huh.
I think that's a little different. They're like madly in love with each other or
Well,
whatever.
it's different also because they're already engaged, and that's a whole nother level of like, it would probably engage your nervous system differently. Like, because you're thinking, like, I would probably feel like, oh, fuck, I'm trapped or something. Like, I would go into that because I always
Yeah.
like to have an escape plan.
Yeah.
As I'm saying, like, oh my God, I want to get married. But what I mean is, like, if I had gotten engaged, this is why I would never go on that show. If I had gotten engaged, through a wall, and then I went and lived with them, first of all, I would never do that because I need to see you and like know if I'm attracted. But secondly, the pressure of knowing I'm already engaged when I do like normal life with you would
Yeah.
send me over the edge. I just know that about myself. Like, I would be like, where can I like push the eject button? Like, I couldn't get to it fast enough. So I think that added pressure in the Love is Blind situation is pushes people to get to those places faster because they already know like we're engaged. This is
Yeah.
sort of like you're in a pretend trial marriage. Like, you can just play house, and so maybe some things are going to come up that get on your nerves about just living with someone and sharing a space with someone, but I don't think it is necessarily the same depth. So I agree with you. Um,
Yeah.
I will
Period.
say one of the things that I had written down in my notes that was kind of, for me, kind of juicy, and it goes back to what you were saying about like the mixers and the cocktail party, but it also came up after their decisions when they went into their like living situations and came up with a few of them. But at the mixer especially, some of them were like saying terrible things and like talking shit about their exes to the new person in front of the ex, or like just saying like things they didn't like about them or whatever, like right in front of them and right to the ex. And I just thought, and then afterwards, like even just saying it, venting about your ex to your new trial partner or whatever, to me is just batshit. Because like I don't want some guy that I'm seeing, I was gonna say, to be a little pussy.
Well,
But like to be like griping to me about his ex. Like I just
yes,
think that's gross. I'm not interested. And I definitely, that's gonna like turn me off sexually.
yes, because there's like so many layers to it. Like, first of all, like I don't need to know. I mean, if it's different if I ask, but like I don't really need to know. You're obviously not with him anymore. Like, let's just focus on us. Let's like talk about us and what we want and where we're going in life. We don't need to trash somebody else. That's not going to do us good. It's easier. Why don't you just say, well, I prefer this? You don't have to say, well, my ex never did this and blah, blah, blah. You can just say, well, I prefer a person who folds the laundry the day we wash it or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, I don't know. I mean, when I understand it's a unique situation because they came into it knowing like we're with someone and then we're going to break up, and like we're in a long enough relationship and in love enough that we've been considering marriage, and we're going to break up and then go into this other trial relationship. But it just seems like um so anyway, I understand that that's a unique situation, so they might have things to that they can talk about, like what they're going through. But again, like you're saying, it makes me feel like, then are people actually gonna want to be with their trial partner, or is it just like an experiment and you're not gonna actually be with them anyway, so you can just say whatever you want and get it out? Do you know what I mean? Like I'll talk shit like that about like an ex to a friend,
Yes.
especially a girlfriend. I don't even really, with my guy friends, I don't really even go there much.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. What you're saying makes sense. I would completely agree because I was thinking the same thing. Like, I might say something to my sister, like a complaint or frustration, but I'm not going to, in front of a whole group of people, like make an announcement and say, well, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm just
Or
not.
right in front of the person. Like if I'm gonna say something negative about you, then I'm gonna do it to your face. Like if you're there, I'm gonna say it to you. Like I am not feeling this, or I don't like this, or whatever. But instead, they're like sitting there on the couch with them, and I can't remember exactly who did it. I just made this like little note. I think so. It was
Yeah.
probably multiple people were doing it, but I do remember at one point, like Vanessa got up and she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna just go over here," and she like went to Nick
Yeah.
because I like Dave was talking to someone and about the relationship with her, and she was just sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that whole mixer thing is weird to me. Like, I don't think I would want to do it. I would think it would be so weird. Didn't Vanessa say, like, well, you didn't even say hi to me or something?
Yeah, she got a little whiny. You know, we've talked about that before, like how she could be with, and then I said, oh, well, that's interesting because she was like that with Dave, but when she got with Nick, I didn't feel like she was like that with him as much. And
Yeah.
I still don't think she's like that with him as much, but she got needy with him.
Yeah. We can't even say hi to each other. I just think that like it would just be an awkward situation in general. Like what are you supposed to do? Like we're not together anymore. So am I supposed to like come grovel at your feet or am I just supposed to like live my life? Like I don't know how I would approach it. I think it would be like
Yeah, it's awkward. So wouldn't you have to just, I guess, like do whatever felt right in the moment, and then it would be a really important time to try to just stay in your body and do what felt good to you in your body in that moment. But I imagine it would be challenging, and that's where the practice and play comes in.
yes, completely. Because I mean, like especially after the first mixer, you kind of know how it goes. So then the second mixer, you would have that to go off of. Okay, well, this is kind of how the first one went. This is how I felt. So this next one, I'm going to strategize a little bit and see if I can, you know, go at it in a different direction. I just think yeah, like I said, I just wouldn't know what to do either. And I would be trying to read like my ex's body language, like,
Um,
do I feel like they're open to me right now? Or are they kind of closed off? Or are they like super focused on the person that they're interested in? I just, I think I would go into it with like that. I think I would like try and wait the other person out. Like, okay, well, if I feel like they want to say hi, or if I get a smile or something, maybe I'll try and talk to them. I don't know.
so you would do the attention outward thing
Yeah.
for sure. And like in some ways that's abandoning yourself, right? Because
Yes.
you're not focused on, when we do that, we're not focused on what do I want in this situation? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up? Who do I want to talk to? Like in some ways, it would be an amazing experience in like really getting in your feminine and really getting in your body and really like being the sub and putting your attention inward and like being in that mode.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah, but you would, I mean, it would take a lot of consciousness. It wouldn't.
But a lot of practice because you're like in like this fishbowl of cameras and like all of these things. I think, I mean, what you said is exactly right. That's a really good point to be like, no, how do I want to feel in this situation?
Right. And that honestly, I think in some ways is what Sandy and JR are doing. Like they're just thinking
Yes.
themselves and what they want to do. And in that way, that doesn't gross me out at all about them. That isn't like what makes me uncomfortable. Cause I just think, well, good for them. They're just doing what they want, you know?
Yeah.
And that's important because that's how we get to figure out what we really want, is by like following our impulses, following what we really find pleasurable and what we don't, and learning like, oh, if I do that, I thought it was pleasurable, but then I'm realizing it's actually not pleasurable long term. You know, I use the example of alcohol a lot. Like, sure, it's fun to like have a glass of wine sometimes with your dinner or have a drink when you're out on a date or with a girlfriend, but it doesn't feel good to have a hangover every day, to like push it to that limit where you're having a hangover after, or where you're drinking like that every day. It doesn't feel good. So then that's really not pleasurable.
Yeah.
And so it's finding that balance. But in order to find the edge, like you have to go up to the edge.
Yes. And you have to be like really self aware and like have some really good self control
Yeah.
to
Oh,
that.
but I mean, yes and no on the self control. Because I think when you're clear about what you really want, then that becomes your guide. So if I really want to be in my pleasure and feel good in my body, and if I really want in this situation, like if I really want a long-term committed relationship, then are my actions, are my behaviors lining up with
I
that?
was referring to alcohol, but yes, that
Yeah,
makes
the alcohol, it's the same thing though. It's like, well, if I really want to feel good and energized every day,
every day.
then
Yeah.
like, do I really want to wake up with a hangover? No. So therefore, it becomes pleasurable to go have a glass of wine at dinner and that be it.
Okay, so let's go back to the JR and Sandy thing because I was thinking about that in the alcohol. So alcohol, like you're in a group, you're at a party, and you're just like having a good time, and you have one, and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Starting to feel a little good, and then you have more and more and more.
Yeah.
So then I'm just thinking like crowd mentality at that point. Like, okay, to me, like I would have to have some sort of self control to like
Oh, yeah.
realize my goals, like my long term goals. But then I'm thinking about JR and Sandy, and both of them were given the ultimatum because I'm thinking they're like mob mentality, crowd mentality, because they're both like super attracted to each other. Like they're real curious about the other one. They, you can just see the attraction mounting, growing, whatever. And
Mounting.
mounting.
Great word.
Um, anyways, but you can see their attraction for one another. But like
To
you're,
the point, someone might get mounted.
yes, it's true.
Yeah.
But like what you're saying though, they honestly are in their pleasure because I mean I feel like with them I don't think it's like a self control. They're literally living in the moment where some of the other couples are like Nick at the end, he just could not believe that that Sandy had kissed JR. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't believe like
Seems obvious to me.
yeah, that shocked you. But I feel like there are the couples who are very aware that they could possibly hurt the other person and they're just not going to.
Right. Well, and it makes sense.
In their pleasure.
And what now?
I said so they're not in my opinion, then they are not really like in the moment trying to figure out what makes them feel good. They're just so worried about the other person.
Well, yes, and
And I love it when you say yes and. I'm always like, okay, something good's coming. Yes and.
yes, and in the scenario of Nick, he actually in his pleasure because he's madly in love with Sandy. He wants to marry her, right? And in his masculine, his attention is on her. And
But does he?
Well, I mean, that's what he says, right? Like that's what he says.
He really likes Vanessa.
Well, I agree. So now he's in this internal conflict. He's in the middle. He's in the internal conflict trying to like figure out, oh gosh, I thought this, I wanted this over here, but maybe I really want this over here. So he's in the in between. But his one level of his pleasure probably is holding that containment and holding that boundary to not go kiss someone else when he has devoted and committed to Sandy, even though they've broken up. That goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. Like, if you're actually really wanting to be married and you're a man and you're really like, I want this woman, then you're not going to go a week or two later and be like in bed making out with some other woman and be over it.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, like, at least that's not the kind of man I want.
No, I would agree. And I think in the experiment though, like if they're truly your ex, then I guess you'd have to talk about it beforehand. Like whatever happens in these 3 weeks, we're not fighting over, we're not getting mad about, we're just going to live our lives
Right.
with the flow.
Yeah.
Because
They're
that's
like rules for themselves or boundaries for themselves going into it. I totally agree with that. And I also want to say, I don't know if it's backtracking, but I'm thinking about something I just said and I want to. So if a woman is definitely like, I'm not into you and I don't want to marry you and I don't want this, then yeah, it's like, don't be a little puppy dog man, like begging after her, because that's not sexy and masculine and stuff either. But I think it's just a unique situation where he introduced the ultimatum because he really wanted to be with her. I'm talking about Nick and Sandy. And so therefore, I think there is a level of, again, I would never be on the show, but I'm just imagining if I was a man, which I'm not, but I'm just imagining if I was a man and I did the ultimatum and I was really committed to this woman, then I might use it as a container of space to let her go, be in her full pleasure and figure out and give her that however many weeks they're in it. And then I'm going to, within myself, decide, like, with my strong spine, when I've had enough, when I've seen enough, and what I can do to benefit both of us in this scenario. And what I can do to benefit both of us might be to just offer a lot of containment to Vanessa, hold a bigger space of containment for Sandy, and just wait and see what happens. It might be that I take action, because I get really clear in myself that, oh my gosh, what I'm feeling with Vanessa is like something I didn't even know I could feel. So therefore, then I know I've got to let Sandy go. But like just holding that space and being really clear.
Yeah.
And being okay in that space holding, like letting the masculine just hold the space. That's what I'm kind of imagining.
Yeah, I think that sounds really good. I think that would be clearly useful in this situation. But I just wonder, like, gosh, it's just such a pressure cooker that they're in.
Yes.
I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens next episode 4. We'll see if 5 blend together or if 4 and 5 will be separate. I don't know.
I know. We'll see what kind of juiciness happens that we're going to talk about, and then how long it takes us to get through it, because I'm really excited. I haven't watched it yet because I was like waiting till we recorded this to watch the next one, and I might watch it tonight because I'm excited to see, especially since they kind of ended it on a little cliffhanger.
Okay, I might start too. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what happens, if they'll tell us more about Micah and Chanel.
Oh yeah. That's what I meant by the cliffhanger, girl. I gotta know. I didn't
know. Maybe Nick crying really got to you. It could have been
Oh my God.
No. Which I get. It's upsetting. Like, it's totally upsetting.
It's upsetting, yes, and he can have his emotions and all of that, but it is like not a surprise. Come on. I'm surprised they weren't like slurping it up on each other just like in front of everyone, because they definitely have, and I don't mean that negatively, like they just have a chemistry.
They do, and they're really into it. I don't. I mean, I can already tell you, Nick, that Sandy's not ready for marriage. Like, she's still living her life,
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I agree.
exploring the world. She is not settled yet, and that's okay. That's fine. Explore the world.
Do it. Go for it.
It just seems so opposite.
Yeah. I know.
So
Some of
opposite.
them, like, yeah, just seeing the couples that came in, I'm like, wait, it's kind of a head scratcher, and they're one of them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I guess we'll see what happens next time.
Yeah, it's been good talking. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. We'll talk again soon.
Fun. Yeah.
All right. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.